All right, so today we'll be talking about business models for the design of innovative products and services. Again, for the course of product software, and again, this is one of those required lectures that you have to have seen before you can do the practicum properly. So basically, we'll be talking about the way in which organizations create value. Also quite interesting, you may know this course is in part about applying information science concepts to the software industry. So the information science concepts here are business models, value chains, those kinds of things, and they're much more widely applicable to other industries as well. So don't think that what you're learning here today is only relevant for the IT or the software industry. All right, so let's start with an introduction to business models. I think the first question I'd like to ask you is, well, here you can see the models of Cirque du Soleil versus a traditional circus. Some of you might already know that current circuses are not doing great. They have problems with animal violence or animal harm, and yeah, so overall it's less and less popular. In a traditional circus, you also see, well, there's some core elements, some star performers, one repeated show with unrelated acts, whereas Cirque du Soleil, which is a lot more successful nowadays, they have no star performers, they have this sort of theme-based show, emphasis on artistry. So yeah, the question is, okay, is the business model of Cirque du Soleil different from the business model from a normal circus? They sell tickets and they sell seats basically and entertainment. So the question for you to think is, okay, is the business model for Cirque du Soleil different from a normal circus, or is it the same? And I'll leave it up to you. If you ask me, the magic sauce is also part of the business model. So in this case, obviously, the magic sauce is quite relevant. So here you see some other business models. So you see, for instance, an auction business model or a freemium. So you have a free version and then later on you start paying. Also online delivery, online content. Franchise is an interesting one. You may know this, but if you're very entrepreneurial, you might start McDonald's or KFC on the campus here today. And then you have to fit all kinds of franchise formula requirements. And if you do, then McDonald's will give you your franchise, and all you have to give is 15% of your revenue or something. So yeah, that's I think a very interesting business model. Interesting, what you see here is that some of them are very easy to understand. Subscription, yeah, easy. People pay per magazine or per software service they're using. But some are really sort of complicated. So here, for instance, you see bricks and mortar. So bricks and mortar basically means that you have a physical store where people come in and buy things from you. But also you see here multi-level marketing, and yeah, that's a business model, but it's also sort of a formula for a business model. Same for open source. Open source is not really a business model. It's more, open source code is code that's freely available on the web. So how do you make money with it? So these words you see here are not necessarily very reliable, easily cut off business models. But it's good to see this list. So let's go a little bit into the definitions, because then it makes it easier to understand what I mean when I talk about business model. So first, business, well, the activity of providing goods and services involving financial, commercial, and industrial aspects. So yeah, that sounds fairly broad, which it should be, because business is a very broad term. And then if we move on, well, here we have the probably the most important definition of today, or of this lecture, which is a definition of a business model. So it describes the rationale of how an organization creates, delivers, and captures value. That should sort of give you, a good impression of what this is all about. So value is also something that's, it's hard to, it's not only money, is kind of what I'm trying to say. An interesting question is, for instance, you're a hockey club or you're a football club. Does it, it creates, delivers, and captures value, but it's not all about profit. So in my eyes, a foundation can also have a business model. I think even private persons have a business model. As in, what was the adagium? Get rich and, sleep with women. I think the original version is a little bit more X-rated. Yeah, the point being that yeah, we're all here to create, deliver, and capture value. And some of us are more successful. Think of an organization like Google than others. Think of any organization that will go bankrupt in the next year. And then, of course, there's the definition of strategy. So, business strategy, a long-term plan of action designed to achieve a particular goal or set of goals or objectives. You can hear there, it's really, well, what's the business strategy of Utrecht University? It's to win Nobel Prizes, it's to provide excellent education, and to perform excellent research. And, well, it's a very broad strategy, obviously, but it's different from a business model. The business model of Utrecht is to have enough money to do those things. And do that by yeah, different things, different methods and activities. So please note that these two things are quite different. So rationale around value, and here it's more a long-term plan of action to achieve particular goals. So the business model is also supportive of the business strategy. You can't grow to 10 markets if your business model isn't already doing its thing and making you good amounts of money. All right, so here you see Amazon's first business model. I think one of the things we all know about is the long tail, which is quite nicely shown in this picture. So what you see here is that traditionally, if you went into a bookstore, you would see, you know, well, in this case, 5 most commonly sold books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 most commonly sold books. But the cool thing about Amazon is that they can offer books that are read by 10 people worldwide. And still nobody will be hurt by this if they sell it in their web shop. So that's something that they can work on themselves. And that, of course, yeah, creates this long tail. Yeah, they have a vast potential customer base. Everybody's interested. Their main thing to think about is not, do we have the best store? Do we welcome our people, our customers with a smile? But it's all about, okay, do we give customers their book in fast enough time? Think also of the e-reader, which has been largely driven also by Amazon and their Kindle and their Kindle Fire and stuff. So you can see that Amazon had a very nice business model. But of course, Amazon is more nowadays. So it started diversifying into related products. So it's now a more generalized marketplace. They made their own market, so they're also providing a platform for smaller sellers. They have their own Fire Phone, Amazon Prime, TV shows. You can really see that, they initially thought about becoming the biggest bookstore worldwide, but now they are competing with no one less but Walmart. And Walmart, of course, as you know, is one of the largest organizations worldwide. And Walmart and Amazon are currently really having it out. So they're currently competing on shopping, getting your shopping delivered to your house. And also very interesting, when Amazon saw that during Christmas they needed about 5 times as many servers as the rest of the year, that maybe this was a good time to start thinking, okay, what do we do with the 80% redundant servers while we're not selling stuff? And then AWS, Amazon Web Services, was born, which is also doing really, really great. So that's also making them a ton of money. So I think Amazon is an entity to reckon with for the next couple of decades, the same way Apple is, and the same way. And then, to be completely honest, when I was younger, I never expected Amazon to grow this big, to grow to this capacity also. It's very cool to see how companies can diversify in such a way to become world leaders effectively. So then there's Google. Google also was a very interesting case. What was interesting about Google and its model was that when these two guys first launched their search engine, they were not so special. I was using Alta Vista back in the day, and many people around me were using it too because it was starting to look like it was the best one. Yahoo was just sort of a start page, which was also, they had way too many links and their content wasn't great. There was Lycos, there were all these other things, but Alta Vista was looking like it was the best. And then here come these Google guys who start optimizing not just the results, but also the rankings, and start thinking more and more about, okay, what do people really want? What does somebody want when they type in fire hose? Do they want to buy a fire hose? Do they want a class in fire protection? What is it that they're looking for? And then, of course, also, okay, can we sell ads based on this? And obviously, they were thinking about it themselves. Should we first ask for money? They even had a device where you could have a device that would index your own website and then give you a perfect search bar, which I found, well, I actually bought one for a customer of mine back in the day. So this was, yeah, really, really interesting. Also to see that the jury was still out on how to do this. And back then it wasn't sure whether this company would be so big. Right. This might be a good time for a breather and a sip of tea. Yes, I am human. It's much better than somebody who's only doing the screen. All right, so yeah, before we end this little session, I want to show you some key elements of business models. I don't want you to know these by heart, but it's pretty good to see that there are all these people: Chesbro, Hamel, Johnston, Mullins and Commissar, Osterwalder and Pigneur, who you'll hear a lot more about, and Skarzinski and Gibson. And they all try to sort of formalize the concept of business models. And what's really quite funny is that none of these really hit it big. So none of these made the concept of business models very popular. So each of these companies or each of these scientists had a feeling of, okay, nobody's defined this term well enough yet, so I shall define it. But then, yeah, they weren't really picked up. And our friends Osterwalder and Pigneur were smart enough to turn it also into a sort of business story. So they wanted to sell this not just to academics, which is, well, a way of making an impact, but they also started publishing on this, and they started even a consultancy company called Business Modeling Inc., Business Models Inc., or something like this. And these are the guys behind, and this is where you're going to know already what I'm going to mention. The Business Model Canvas is one of their products. I later on also have a lecture about it, but you might skip it because you've already seen the 7 elements, and just do the quiz to see if you can just skip it. So, well, here you can see some nice elements. You see revenue streams come back several times. You see customer value prop come by a couple of times. Also, who do we serve? How do we make money? Yeah, so it's also interesting how some of them talk about revenue, others talk about profit. For me, those things are actually not that separated because, like I said before, a foundation is not making profit, but can also have these value flows. So that's also, I think, really relevant to realize that you personally are probably not making profit this week as a student, but you do have your own business model where your parents or the government is supporting your studies a little bit. And right now your cash flow position and your capital position will be going down. But hopefully next week Bitcoin takes a hike again, and then you will start making money again. So the one thing you see in all these models, I think, is sort of the market, so the customer. So you have market segment, you have customer interface, you have customer value prop, you have, let me see, well, operating model also kind of includes the customer, then you have the customer segments, and then you have who do we serve. So that's the only thing that you see in all models. But otherwise, yeah, they have different views of it. And like I said before, we got sold on the business model canvas. So it's good for you to know that, well, there's others who've talked about this, but it's mostly the business model canvas that we use. And customers is the one that returns in every type of business modeling language. All right, so I'm going to stop here and now ask you some questions to see if you paid attention. And then, the reason, so the main reason why we studied this is not yet for the practicum, this is all for the exam. So everything you've learned here could result into an exam question.